In case you might think you were ready to practice Samadhi right away, you should know that the practice of Samadhi only becomes possible after a person has achieved perfection in concentration and meditation. The mind must have acquired one-pointedness and have been brought completely under control, because the entire mind must be used in the practice of Samadhi.
Namaste everyone. So we will now continue on our study of the Sutras, Sri Patanjali. Last week I finished off talking about the Samadhi. So what is Samadhi? Samadhi is the goal. The goal that we all talk about, the nirvana, the becoming one with the consciousness. It's very easy to talk about, but how do we know it? All the great ones tell us when you're there, you no longer know you're here. So how do we talk about samadhis? Almost impossible. So what is the goal of a seeker? So Sri Patanjali here puts it so clearly for us. So many of us get so confused when we get the knowledge, and maybe we have a little bit of bliss and we think, oh, I've reached it. And then suddenly to know you have a tremendous fall later and go through what we call the dark night of the soul, which is essential for growth. It's actually the best thing that happens to you when you go through the dark night of the soul. So here he tells us, okay, don't fool yourself. Let me explain, and what I feel is the right way to understand. I mean, there's no right way and there's no wrong way, but it's like a guide. It's a guide to understanding the different layers within us. You know, spirit is consciousness, it's awareness. We can say we're aware, but we're aware of this body and we're aware of this mind. So what is it all about? So he says, start simple. The first stage is when you first start meditating is called, he calls them Samprajñata Samadhi. Can you say it? Samprajñata Samadhi, which means that you get to this kind of deep state, but you are not yet there. You're not at the point where you're really totally free within this instrument. And he said, there's kind of 4 stages to this. So the first stage he talks about is Savitaka Samadhi, which I explained last week. But just to recap quickly, he said, it's like you meditate on something that is material, something that's concrete, something you can touch, feel, know. You know, like for me, I started with my guru's picture. Why did I start with it? Because I met this wonderful energy that really actually changed. I really believe changed my cells and the atoms in my cells to feel something I had never felt before, a kind of peace, something that overpowered me. And I go, is this getting close to God? Because I want to know God. I want to know God when I'm alive. And of course became a long journey of really understanding that. And it never ends because the universe is so vast, which is the most wonderful thing about it. There's no ending. But anyway, so the Savitaka is starting on a form. And when you focus on a form for long enough, you start to see the essence, which we talked about last week, which is called Savichara Samadhi. So what is the essence? What is essence to you? What is essence? Something you can feel, but you can't really touch, right? So can you give me any example of essence? Anything? Love, absolutely. Peace is an essence, but you can't really touch it. It's like an absorption of that energy, the absorption of, we call it tanmatras, okay, the subtle energies. Like if you see a flower, the smell of the flower, right? That's the subtle energy. So this is what it's talking about. So of course, so I give you my own experience because that's all I can do. And so there was Gurudev, and suddenly the form was gone. And the essence that I wanted in my life, the love that was transmitted from that photo to me, and knowing him also personally and the teachings. So I could feel the essence of love, that strength that I always admired in him, the straightforwardness, so truthful, so straightforward, and so direct, And I love that, because I felt the world we live in, as you know, people tell you what you want to hear, and then they go behind your back and tell you something else, right? I mean, there was a master who was straightforward, told me straight. There was no flattery, there was nothing, but there was also so much love with it. And actually, that's where I got my the new therapy that I've started. It's called Axiom, because it's based on truth and compassion. Telling the truth to people sometimes is very hard. It is very hard because it can hurt them. So in order for people to heal, they do need to hear sometimes that truth that is so painful. But it will help them to evolve in themselves. So you mix the truth with so much love that they actually know it's coming from a place of love and not judgment. And that's where Axiom came from. It comes from love and not judgment. But as a sister or a brother, if you come to me and I'm lying to you and say, yeah, talk about this, or let's do this, and then just get to the nitty gritty. You know why this is a problem? Because you're lying. Maybe not in so many words, but are you lying to yourself? Are you truthful to you? Are you truthful to the world? Are you something that you really don't feel inside? Because if you do that, you're not authentic. You're not living the personality that you were given in the most beautiful way, because you're too busy concentrating on what other people think of you, right? So this Savichara Samadhi, when you're in it, after a while you practice, and it comes naturally, really, it does, in time. That's why they say just meditate and everything will come in time. Just be good, do good, and it will come in time. So what happens is you start to sense the essence. For example, you walk in a room, right? And you can feel good vibes or negative vibes. You can feel it right away. And so you become quite good at it. So just by feeling the essence of one thing, you learn the essence of everything. Right? That's why the yogis say, know the microcosm, and then you will know the macrocosm. Because everything we need to know is divinely in our, it's in our structure. It's the way we were designed. God wanted to know God in all of us, right? But how to get there? And so this is Savichara. So the next one he talks about is Sa'ananda Samadhi. And what does that mean? Joy. Sa'ananda. Ananda means bliss. The bliss. But the bliss that comes to you, not because of something or someone or anything at all, is just, whoa. I know many of you have had these moments, right? That just, the joy. And funny enough, as I always tell you, whenever I need to explain something in a more simple way, I get someone who gives it to me that I just love, because I just opened my book. I bought this a few months ago, and I thought, I should read it. I just love the higher purpose title. And I started reading it, and just 2 nights ago I had to laugh, because he talks about joy. He said, we make a mistake. All of us are looking for happiness, or we want to run away from pain, which is what we always want to do, run away from pain, and always looking for pleasure. This is a problem. Yes, we were born, our birthright is to be happy, but it's not from the outside world, it's not from anything else. It's that bliss that comes up in you, and that's when you touch the divine in you, and that starts from Savichara Samadhi, even if you don't call it that. But at least if you can analyze it in your own mind, because we're such intellectual beings, then oh my God, I understand, I'm going deeper. The consciousness is awakening in me, and this is this awakening of the joy of bliss. Oh my God, I'm really spirit, I am spirit. And so your journey becomes different. For me, my journey went into peace, but I love this joy, because every single master I have met a real master. realize it's joyful. They laugh a lot. Gurudev always, Gurudev, somebody mentioned, I always used to make jokes. I met Dada Vaswani. He used to make jokes. People paint them as such serious souls. I've never met them so serious. I've met them joyful. I mean, Gurudev used to joke around all the time, and they make him as so strict, but he was so loving. I mean, I saw him deal with the world. He came to my wedding. People were drinking champagne there. Did he judge anyone? No, he had a champagne glass with apple juice. Adapt, adjust, accommodate. No judgment. I think this is what I love so much in this master. I did not feel judged. When you go to most yoga schools, everything is judged and everybody is judged. And I was never comfortable with that. It didn't feel right to me. But joy feels right. Joy, when it's joy, joy doesn't have any pain in it, doesn't have anything else in it but just bliss. So here, I'd like to read to you what Robert Holden writes. And he studied all the traditions too. Because again, we all know there is something deep inside of us that is just wanting this. I call it this. Who knows what this is? I don't think any of us do. But it's this, right? And so he writes here about joy. The call to joy inside everyone is a great shout of joy waiting to be born. Joy is different. Unlike pleasure, joy doesn't need a stimulus to make you happy. Unlike satisfaction, joy doesn't need a reason because it isn't dependent on external circumstances. Joy is an unreasonable happiness, an uncaused happiness that lives in you and that arises from you being the essence of who you are. Joy does not come and go. It is only your awareness of it that comes and goes. So this is what he, and isn't that what Sahananda is saying? That joy, that bliss, that is not dependent on anything else, any form or anything else. And then I'd like to continue because there's a few things that he writes about joy that I really think I couldn't have put this better. And he's put it in a modern way that we can really understand bliss and not, it's so far up there, I can never enjoy bliss, right? Because this is what most people think, and then they start to get confused about spirituality. But just really being is just what it's all about. And it says, joy is a creative spark within you. Joy is a marvelous increasing of what exists, a pure addition out of nothingness. Just the joy of being alive. That's why I always like to say, I'd like you to say, what do I like you to say? I love my life. Not for you, if you can't love it for you, but for that joy within you, for that being that created us to experience, right? And will you do it with me now, please? Can you all put your hands up and say, I love my life. And it's kind of like saying a thank you. It opens your heart, right? It just, this chakra is open, and it's a chakra, it's an energy field, it's a physical field, and it just, it's like saying thank you, thank you, because we're always so busy complaining about this and that and this and that and this and that. And it's just like, thank you, you gave me this life, and all I'm doing is looking at these small things that, okay, you have to do in life anyway, but let me do it all with joy, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let me arise in joy. This is life. This is where we are born. This is where we are living, Let the joy arise. Good, bad happens every day. So, and that is the joy. So when you say, I love my life in that way, then the energy of the universe feels that. And it just wants to give you joy, because what is the divine? It will give you whatever you want, but not whatever you want, which is another fallacy. Whatever is necessary for your growth. Sometimes what you want is you're not going to get because it's not good for your growth. It's the saying goes, it provides our every need not our every greed. And that's it. So and this joy is not based on getting or receiving, it's just joy. So here, this is Ananda Samadhi, and it says, joy is your compass. Joy is not a goal. Joy is your guide. And I like that. When you're not joyful, notice that. I thought this man is really clever. He knows about joy. That's your compass. Okay, when you're not joyful, what is going wrong in your compass? You're not connecting with the divine. Oh, may all be filled with peace and joy, love and light. Oh, we say it, but are we peace and joy, love and light? We're not connecting. So it's our compass. So when you're not in joy, what is wrong with your compass? Are you going in the wrong direction? Because that's my compass. Yeah, am I going in the wrong direction? You follow that inner joy, not, like I said, not the outer pleasures, because that could fool you totally. But follow that inner message, and then you will know. You will know. It is that bliss that is pure. It's uncontaminated. It's not by others' words or anything else, but a pure joy. And of course, I can tell you this because I've experienced this. When I felt kind of like this. One day, I remember many years ago, I was in an apartment on the beach with my late husband, and we were just taking a nap in the afternoon, and suddenly I woke up and I had these waves of bliss coming through my body. I mean, they really literally felt like waves, and I have told some of you, they're very sensual in feeling. Don't mistake it for sexual. It's sensual, but it can, people who get into this path can be waylaid and they don't understand this. But it's like all the energies in your body, the bliss, it's like opening up the chakras, really your internal world for you. And I was, wow, this is incredible. I was like, oh my God, I just don't know what's going on, And thank God my guru was alive in those days. Really, thank God he was alive, because who else would I've asked if such a thing happens, right? All the feelings in your body that you've never experienced before, and such joy. So I called Swami Satchidananda. Thank God it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And sometimes I'm not lucky, I can't get him because he's so busy, right? So, and his secretary said, Nalanie, he said he'll speak to you right now. So I thought, great, that's 10 o'clock in US time, right? AM. And I said, Gurudev, I don't know what's happening to me. I just can tell you, I'm so happy. I feel such joy. And it's coming from within me, my body. And he says, how do you feel? What is the sensation? And I said, the sensation is like, I'm feeling like waves coming up my body. And he goes, that's what? That's how he always answered. That's what? And he said, Nalanie, this is good. But he said, and it feels how? And I said, great, it feels a bit embarrassed to say it, but it feels a little sensual. He said, yes, but don't get carried away with this. This is how it feels. It's the Kundalini moving up your body and introducing you to the divine source. So for me, that made me feel like very, very comforted and very, very grateful. In fact, what I did is I just walked down from the little apartment and walked to the beach at that moment. Because it's too precious a moment that you really can't share with somebody who really might not understand it, right? Because it's like conversation with your divine self, the divine in you and God, right? It's a conversation with God. And so I went down to the beach and just sat there and just heard the waves go on. And that was my experience, and it came by itself. I mean, I didn't even try to make it happen. This is why when you know it happens, so people fool themselves, oh, I did a little chanting and I'm in bliss. Is a different kind of bliss. It's come from something else. Do you know what I mean? Yes, you go in bliss. Yes, chanting is wonderful and it gives you that, but it's not it's still from outside. This kind of joy is not from outside. It's from nothing. It's from everything. So now you know why Buddha says it's nothing and it's everything, because it comes from nothing and it comes from everything. Where did it come from? Certainly it didn't come from Nalanie's head. Certainly it did. I didn't have the capacity to do that. So it was a gift at that moment. It felt like such a gift. So this is my understanding of Sahananda Samadhi, but it is also, and this is what I love that he said, joy is intelligent. Because again, you see a lot of people on the spiritual path and they think they're in bliss, but they don't. You also still living on this earth. You have to know who and when to use this joy with. So it needs to be intelligent. It's like Lord Jesus said, do not cast your pearls among the swine. So you need to be a little careful, a little intelligent. So he says, I see joy not as an emotion. You see, this is where you can get really mixed up in this bliss, Sananda Samadhi. I see this joy not as an emotion, but as a quality of your original mind. And you know, Gurudev said, your birthright is to be happy. Unfortunately, we have been taught we've been born with sin. What a lot of nonsense. And, you know, for me, this never sat right. And so here he's explaining, I see joy as a quality that's inherent in all of us. It's just fallen asleep. Because babies, even just seeing a baby, even if they're crying, gives you such joy. At least for me, it does. It just makes something in us stimulates. It stimulates that joy. To be free is to be capable of thinking one's own thoughts, not the thoughts of the body or of society, but thoughts generated by one's deepest, most original, most essential and spiritual self, one's individuality. Following your joy helps you to be free. And listen to that. Developing who you are. You know, I always say this is our biggest problem on the spiritual path. We listen too much to what society tells us we should be, on what how we should be, instead of looking at, you know, how you do this, because it's quite difficult, especially when you have family, like, you know, children, grandchildren, looking after expenses of a home. You still have to be very responsible because you have that dharma's given to us. That is our responsibility. So here, it's kind of, how do you do it? And how I constantly do it is like this. This is where I am. This is where I have been placed. This is where these people have come to my life. So everything must be a gift. How do I raise the joy in this moment? And when you don't feel the joy in the moment, you feel disconnected. Because with the meditation and over time, and you see the state of your human mind, and you feel this, you've experienced this bliss, what happens is you can see the difference of the joy and the human mind, and how when you get caught, even for 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes, your peace and your joy is gone, and that's your compass. So if you can watch that as a compass, that you keep understanding, okay, it's like the mantra, right? Your mantra, you keep going back to, you forget the mantra, and then suddenly the mind goes so crazy, I'm going to use my mantra. So the mantra, this energy of joy, I loved his example of it, and I thought, I have to bring this and share this with you. So beautifully put. And finally he goes, I mean, it's just a small chapter, but he goes, joy is moral. Again, you have to follow the yamas and niyamas, which we'll be covering in the weeks to come, right? Yama, got to follow. That's important, because that keeps the morality, the integrity, the honesty, the truthfulness in us. And that's also what Axiom is definitely based on, which is you got to remember that is your compass, the joy with the yamas and niyamas. And if they're not working and there's no joy coming, then know that there is something not aligned in your own mind and not something aligned in your own body. No need to look outside. Yes, you might be blaming somebody for creating that circumstance, but that circumstance came to you because you needed to see it. Wow, you need to see it, you need to accept it, and it may be ugly. but you're not joyful. You better see how ugly it is. And I always say, God knocks at your door, you don't listen. He bangs, you don't listen. He'll break it down till you do, because this consciousness is driving us inwards. And if we refuse to see it and we keep getting connected and attached to the things of the outside world, we can't know that joy. So this is your compass. So I'm not joyful. I'm doing something totally wrong. And it's coming from an ego point, because I can't even, no matter how I try. So what do? Sometimes you have to be a bit drastic. You have to take that risk, that leap of faith, that trust, that, okay, I'm going to do it. So what society? This is my body to learn about, this is my incarnation. So of course it has to be moral. You have to see where you are in it. So let's say you can't run away from certain situations. I've known many people who are not happy, and they find this spiritual path and they run away for their family, leaving the kids behind. I mean, I met many people like that. So they leave their home, they go to the ashram, live in the ashram, left one family, got another family. People are people. They're not going to change wherever they are. Right? You still have the problems to deal with. You still have the same problems. I would say, sort them out where you are. When the time is right and you need to get out, the pot, like Gurudev said, pot will be too hot. You can't even say no. You just have to do it. That's how you know. You know that you know that you know. But it takes a while to trust yourself. And in the therapy I use, I see that, people don't trust the divine in themselves. And I think that because they don't have a firm foundation of morality, or they don't have this firm foundation of yama niyama, so there is nothing to balance on. It's kind of like they're rocky. They don't know where I'm going with this. Is it this way or is it that way? This is why the yamas and niyamas, we on this, as you know, this center, what do we always ask for? Two things. Try. We all make mistakes, and this is another thing we have to accept as human beings. We're all human, and we make mistakes. We help each other in love and truth, not in anger. Although sometimes we have to apply anger when people do things irresponsibly. We have to point it out, and I know that's unpleasant, but it's not to hurt, it's to love. It's to love, like you would do with your children, right? When your child does something wrong, you tell them off. And somebody asked me this question, Bhakti asked me this question yesterday after the Hatha class. She said, Nalanie, we speak about truth, but sometimes to tell somebody the truth, is not really nice, because they get very unhappy. It shouldn't harm, but it does harm them. And I said, I know. That's why the sutras say you have to find the right time to say the truth. It should be beneficial. You should be in a state of love, not judgment. And it should be done peacefully. Find the right time to tell them. But it will still hurt them. I said, sometimes it does. But you do your best. So I said, in the case of children, I said, I've had children when they've done something wrong, and I tell them nicely, don't listen. I just go with a loud voice. This is not acceptable in your room. Done. They don't like me very much. They'll get upset with me, but they can feel it's love. So the next step is, and this is why the sutras are so wonderful. So she said, yeah, but then they get upset with you and say, what's the next thing you should do? Anybody can answer that question? Disregard. Yes, disregard. And non-attachment to their reaction. Non-attachment. Of course they're going to be angry with me. When I was a teenager, my mom told me off. I got angry with her. I locked myself in the room. I rebelled. Normal. Let them search for the answers. Let them rebel. Don't get attached in their rebellion. And this is where parents go wrong, or we go wrong with partners when they want to find themselves. No, you can't do it that way. You've got to do it my way. Why do I have to do it your way? Are we cramping people's style? Are we cramping their freedom because I think my way is better than yours? Hey. No, non-attachment. I love you. I think this is going to hurt you. But if you think it's not, do it, suffer. And that's the non-attachment. I've been a parent. I told my daughter, you don't want to listen? No problem. Suffer. Learn. The sooner you suffer, the better. Mom, how can you say that? I said, because I love you. I love you, but you know what? You have to experience it for yourself. My experience is not good enough. Isn't it true? Didn't we all do that? Didn't we all rebel? We had to find it for ourselves. And we have to allow people that bliss, that freedom. Because when you do find it for yourself, irrelevant of anybody else, it becomes more authentic, it becomes more you, and it is definitely more spiritual because it's your soul talking to you from a very moral point of view. All right? Not to hurt, but to love. And sometimes love can be painful. It can be. I think everybody knows that one. And it can be painful when it has the element of attachment and possessiveness in it. So that's ananda, the joy, and work towards it. So he says, it's not a type of happiness that comes from hedonism. It's a joy that comes naturally for sights much higher that human spirit is born to be, or an angel. And he said, when you work like that, you will find that you will have guides. So this is the when you live in this Ananda Samadhi, it's not about you, it's the joy that we're all one. It's a kind of different one. It's a hard one to explain. I try to do it as much as I can as Nalanie, but I hope you all experience this joy. But I think I loved his words, make it your compass. Even in painful times, especially in painful times, is when you need to, most people in their painful time, what do? They stop meditating, they get depressed, they home, become the victim, feel sorry for themselves, everything. You hear the conversation is I, my problem, me. Oh my God, that's why there's suffering. And in those painful times is when you need your consciousness to be connected the most. I don't have time for that. I've got too much to do. But all that you're doing is not getting you anywhere. You're miserable. Isn't it better to stop for an hour and get in touch with the divine? Or even 10 minutes? Start your day with God. Start your day. Take up the golden present. Take up any spiritual book you want as soon as you wake up in the morning, as soon as you wake up. If you can't do it with your mind, pick up the book and read those beautiful words. Read it till, but don't read it da-da-da-da-da-da. Don't need to do that. No joy will come from that. Read it and feel it, even if it's 2 sentences. If it's, I love my life, done. That's a song to God. I call it a song to God. Okay, so whatever you call God, doesn't matter. It's not important to me. That's your problem, not mine. For me, it's everywhere. So are you getting this Ananda Samadhi? And I'd like to, I don't know Robert Holden, but I think I'm going to find out his email and write to him and thank him for today, because I thought, this is it. I'm talking about Ananda Samadhi, and he explains it in such a beautiful way. So that is Ananda Samadhi right there. The last Samadhi he talks about is Sa-asmita Samadhi. Can you say it?
Sa-asmita Samadhi.
So there you start with the gross, then you go to the tanmatras, the not so gross, then you go to the ananda, which is the bliss, and then you go to Sa-asmita, where there's not even the feeling of I as this human personality, but a bigger consciousness. A bigger consciousness, a higher consciousness. And that's when you notice your speech will also start to change from I all the time. It starts to change to we, the body. And many times I call Nalanie she. And it's not because I'm trying to do it. It just happens she, she's a silly girl. When I tell her, she's a silly girl. And because you go into your humanness, So it gets to that feeling of the witness in you is observing, running this machine. It's an awareness of just, I can't even explain it. And that's the awareness. And here Sri Patanjali tells us that these samadhis are gifts. They're gifts to us. And I'd like to read to you what he says about them, because like every gift has a good thing and a negative thing, right? Like Gurudev always said, it's like the knife. It's like a knife. Is it good? Is it bad? It's just an instrument. We are just instruments. The surgeon cuts a body to heal, do it for good. The thief murders, uses it for bad. So when these gifts come, miracles come with them. When you start to meditate like that, like I've often said, you will get clairaudience, clairvoyance. Master Shivananda says you start to hear music, celestial music, drums, all kinds of sounds, the Om sound. This is one of the gifts that you get. You get clairaudience, you start to know things. You just start to know them. You can feel the energy of the earth. So do you see, but you fill it with joy rather than more sadness. It's too much out there, there's too much fear and people are so scared. And now with AI, everybody's kind of worried. And again, AI, is it good? Is it bad? It's neither. It's how we use it. You see, human beings, whenever we get a toy in our hand, we abuse. We abuse the phone, we abuse the TV, we abuse everything. We don't know moderation. It's there for a great purpose, but no moderation. And this is why it's so important to practice this, so you don't get carried away with all the nonsense. Because if you're going to be on your phone all day long looking at all these clips and everything, it's going to drive you crazy. You need time to assess you, what's inside of you. Who are you? Who are you? Beautiful angels around me. Start to enjoy being an angel and having that life. And include. Never, oh, I have it, so I'm not going to share it. No, it's inclusive. This feeling feels inclusive. Everybody is important, no matter how bad you've been. Yeah, I don't want to be with you. You're practicing wicked things. But if you come to me and say, I've done this, Nalanie, and I want to get through it, I'll be the first one to help you and do whatever I can to help you, because you're not wicked. It's just the mind didn't know better. That's all. But you come to that realization, now I can help you. But if you don't come to the realization, don't help them. They're not ready to hear it. Do you see? And this is one lesson again Gurudev taught me. He said, you don't ask people, I'm going to help you. Let them come to you. Let them come to you. If they need you, they come. They don't need me, I'm on holiday. Everything is joyful anyway. Correct? So this is the way. But I'd love to read to you. Thank you, Anju. I love response. I love human contact. I love it. So let me see, because that's the way I was made. This is my disposition. So I'd like to read to you what Gurudev says here, because I think it's really, really important. But and this is the Samprajñata. Now these are the four samadhis that I explain. All the four are called Samprajñata Samadhi. Now the Samprajñata Samadhi, you experience consciousness, some kind of samadhi, some kind of bliss, like I said, but you still have your old samskaras with you, your old thoughts, your own old kind of, like, for example, he gives the example, there's a thief and he used to steal, and then he starts to change his life and he stops stealing and he becomes a good person, and one day he goes into a place where he sees a lot of gold, or let's say the old thoughts will still come up. They still come up in your head. Not that you will do anything about it, but they still come up. So he says you still have the seed, you still have to watch it. You're not free yet. You're not free. So many people think when they reach these bliss, they're free. No, he says not yet. This is when you really have to watch it. And he says, but there is a danger in Samprajñata Samadhi also. It is to be practiced. But we have to face the danger of it. That is why you have to prepare yourself with purity and selflessness. Otherwise, you will be in danger with your newfound powers. Take, for example, Jesus, who was able to heal sick and crippled people. He used his powers to bring good to others, but he never used the same force to save himself when he was crucified. If he really wanted to, he could have done it, but he didn't. That means that these mysterious forces should not be used for selfish purposes. And this is where we find people slipping when they get the spiritual path. They start to like, oh, I want to be famous with this. And is it wrong to be famous? No, may all good people be famous. It's not that, but that's not the objective. You got it? Because if they're searching for the money or the fame, they'll get waylaid. We finish with the 4 samadhis here. And then he says on 18, maybe we should just finish with 18 because there's a conclusion here. By the firmly convinced practice of the complete cessation of the mental modifications, the impressions only remain. This is the other samadhi, asamprajñata samadhi. So, in saprajñata samadhi, the buried seeds can still come into the conscious mind when the proper opportunity is given and it pulls you to worldly experience. But in asamprajñata samadhi, the impressions are there, but they don't bother you. The weakness, you see it, but you don't see it. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, okay, no problem. You're not bothered by it. Or not by, it's not about what you want or what you don't want. You just get along with it. You know, it doesn't affect you anymore. You see the old impressions, but you're not affected by it. You don't even have to say, I have to stay away from it. You just look at it. And that's what they call a jivan mukta. At that time, the soul is called a jivan mukta because you live in the world like any other ordinary person. Eat, do whatever you need to do, like every ordinary person. But you know that those old impressions cannot disturb you anymore. They don't disturb you anymore. So this is asamprajñata samadhi.